Hi, Reality Riffing. I got to sit down with incredible entrepreneur and activist Anar Bonsali. She has a very beautiful story around her own entrepreneurial journey. She makes beautiful jewelry, but also she's committed her life to giving back and mentoring young entrepreneurs in underserved areas. So we talk about her foundation and we talk about her nonprofit work, as well as her journey creating something out of nothing, which I love the founder's story, and it was a pleasure to sit down with Anar Bonsali. Hello and welcome back. Reality Riffing and Rama Business School presents this conversation with this incredible entrepreneur, Anar Bhansali. She's the CEO and head creative designer of Bonsali, a fine jewelry company. And from the company's birth, Anar has been committed to giving back social impact, and whether through direct donations or sponsorship of women's empowerment events and mentorships of underprivileged youth. And then most recently, the company launched a creative entrepreneurship program for high school students in South Central LA. I can't wait to talk to you about this, Anar. It's called Start by Bonsali. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited.
Wonderful. So I am always interested in entrepreneurs' stories because I think that there's so much power in them, just from it's the heroine's journey. So I'd love to just hear kind of how you realized you were an entrepreneur and take us along that journey a little bit.
Sure. I don't think I ever knew I was an entrepreneur, or I never, certainly when I was a child, I didn't know I was going to start my own business. I think from childhood, I knew I wanted to be in design and just wanted to be a designer. But I guess when I was a child, I did show, I guess, a knack or an interest in business. I had this little piggy bank. It was electronic, looked like like an actual safe.
Yeah.
And pad and everything. So I'd save all my money from birthdays and everything in that. And when my parents forgot to bring cash from, the ATM, and they needed it because they were running out and didn't have time to stop, they would ask me for cash. And so I'd give it to them, but there was an interest that accrued daily, actually, on the payment. And I would leave little IOUs on their bedside table. And you gotta believe my interest rates were just insane. Like, they were unheard of.
So you were like a loan shark from an early age.
From a very early age. And then you combine that with your classic lemonade stands, your magazine drives, and then I even, like, a friend and I at family vacations, when we'd go to camp, cabins up in the mountains, we started a massage service and spa service for the parents. So it was just always doing something. Now I realize it, but back then it was just not something I realized.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that that's kind of when you do have that entrepreneurial spirit, it's just really woven into your mindset,
Yeah.
Okay, so then when did kind of things get more serious as you kind of decided to go on the journey of starting your business?
Sure. So I was a senior at USC, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, like every other senior. I had finished the semester early, so I took a full-time job at a jewelry store just to keep myself busy while I was trying to figure out what my next steps were. And I would love to say that I had this big moment of inspiration or this calling that came out to me. What I realized was there was a gap in the market that wasn't being filled, and I was able to align my resources, my strengths, the things that I love to do, design and, fashion, and put that all together and create a business for it. And then I shared that vision with my brother, exactly what I wanted to do at the time. Jewelry, women's empowerment, giving back, doing something fresh in the luxury industry. Exactly. That's what I wanted to do. Told him about it. He got excited, and he was like, let's do this. Let's start this business. And I was like, all right. And that's pretty much how it got started.
And did you, when you guys had your brother started a business before? Had he been in business before?
No, he hadn't. So both of us were first time jumping in, didn't know what we were doing, and we just went with it. I do come from an entrepreneurial family. So everyone in my family, from my father, my grandfathers, and also my great-grandfathers, all entrepreneurs.
And from that, I mean, I do think there's a DNA around this stuff. It doesn't, it can come in different ways. Obviously, we can also be starseeds and just and know how to do things that our family didn't know how to do. But I do think when you have kind of generations of this in your family, it lives in your aura. Did you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, there were certain feelings that it just felt natural to me. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm becoming an entrepreneur. It was very much like, all right, this is what we're doing. And it felt comfortable and it felt familiar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was doing something crazy.
And what year was this?
2013.
Okay. And did you, when you looked at the market gap and you're like, okay, I can do this, what was exactly the gap that you felt like you were filling?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So at the time, so in 2013, imagine we're coming out of the wake of 2008. So people were just getting back on their feet, becoming spending again and things like that. And I started seeing a price point in jewelry starting to sell. But then it was all very generic stuff, things that you couldn't really identify where it came from. It wasn't really great quality, but they were all cute stuff you can wear. And then I saw the super ultra high end that was really innovative or just beautiful, but red carpet only, 1% only. And I just didn't feel like that was the place I wanted to be. And at the same time, what was happening was, we had Steve Jobs with Apple, we had Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In, things like that. I saw a whole movement of women's empowerment, women pushing into the workplace.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a piece of jewelry that was distinctive, really high quality, like modern heirlooms that were not necessarily for the 1%, red carpet, blah, 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 but actually pieces that you can wear from morning to evening, from work to cocktails, to picking up the kids, to anything that your life kind of demanded for it. Kind of goes both up and down. What I like to call it, the little black dress of jewelry, essentially. So that's what I saw as the market, is creating a look at a very specific price point.
Now, do you feel like creating a business really Instagram had been around for about a year at that point, but do you feel like that the conjunction of creating a business and a certain level of kind of social media, what the platform of Instagram had offered in a whole new way to businesses, do you feel like that was part of the alchemy of the success? Or give me some of the things that you think were kind of unique to that moment that created a level of success for you.
Sure. So I'll have to admit, I was not big on Instagram from the beginning. I had such a hate-love relationship with social media, understanding its power and impact. But then I just had a hard time trying to understand not necessarily how to build a brand on Instagram, but how to push myself into my Instagram without pushing myself into my Instagram.
Yeah.
I value kind of a little bit of the privacy, but when you own your own brand, you have to push yourself into the front of it. So I had a long road, a long journey to kind of get myself into a place where now I'm very comfortable on Instagram. The things that I think really allowed me to be where I'm at right now would be, I started going to the Middle East for my work, and I just took off there. I had the right type of product at the right price point. I was lucky enough to work with amazing influencers and had unbelievable clientele that helped spread the word of what I was doing. And I just think it's a combination of just a really beautiful product and the type of service that I was able to give them at the right price. I feel like it was a combination of those things.
And did you know that you wanted to get into the Middle East market, or did you kind of fall into it?
I did know I wanted to go to the Middle East. Out of the culture, like the places I think that culturally love jewelry, you have India, you have China, you have the Middle East. There was very specific reasons why I decided to go to the Middle East first. They have consumer shows essentially that allow me to sell direct to consumer, and that format's not replicated everywhere else.
Got it. And how has that been, just as the business has grown? Has it been difficult to get into other markets, or did that kind of allow you to then get access to other markets like the American or North American market and the Asian market and that kind of thing?
Sure. So, I mean, we are present in a lot of the other global markets. In America specifically, we sell with Bergdorf Goodman. And then I service a lot of our private clients as well over here. I feel like what happened in the Middle East allowed us to establish ourselves at a level, and then be able to invest then for. Sorry, I'm just trying to think how to explain this.
Yeah.
Okay, so in America, for example, to really enter the market here, I found that you needed a little bit more marketing spend. Like you need to beef up a little bit of your marketing so you can really introduce yourself to the market here. So what I did was I went to the Middle East where they don't necessarily need that. And that allowed me the revenue and the profits we generate from that invest in the right way so we can then set ourselves up for success in the US. Europe, Asia, different kind of ideas that came from that. Asia, I'm only in Singapore really over there, and we have a few private clients in India. And that was, again, like we noticed that once we were able to build a little bit more marketing material in certain for those regions, we were able to start seeing that come back to us.
Interesting. And was that part of your initial business strategy, or did it start to dawn on you as you got bigger in the Middle East market?
It was the strategy, but the strategy completely changed every time it evolved every single year with how much we learned and the experience that I got through everything. So the answer is yes, that was the strategy, but it kind of became a little bit more fine-tuned and refined as I kept going on.
And your brother, is he more of like a CFO or COO and you're the CEO? Is that how you guys work?
Oh, so I should explain this. My brother, after the first year of business, found his true calling, and he's pursuing another business in India in sustainable construction. So I've been on my own it's incredible. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah. So, and how big is your team now as you've grown?
So it's just, I have one employee, so it's just the two of us.
Wow.
And I work with an amazing team of freelancers, so we can go in and out of just working with each other.
And I'll stop asking all these technical questions, but I think this stuff is really fascinating, because when people are trying to put their heads around building something, I do feel like some of the architecture of the entrepreneur story is always interesting. So how did you figure out, or how did you go through the journey of really finding the right people to produce your product, or produce the jewelry in this case? But how did that journey kind of move for you?
Sure. So my father used to be in the industry. He no longer is, but he used to produce. So what I was referring to before, red carpet type of work, my father used to produce that. So his ateliers were just the best work craftsmanship, really small, family owned, generational. And so our first factory in Bangkok was through my dad's introduction, actually. And that's where I lived for a year to learn how to source and also how to manufacture and how to design jewelry specifically, because I had no background in it other than drawing circles and saying, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So all of that came from an introduction my father was made for us. And then the other atelier that we work with in India actually came through being at an exhibition. So one of the owners of the atelier stopped by our booth and was just, we really like your work and we think we can produce for you at the quality and craftsmanship that you're looking for. And for me to make that decision, I had to go see the factory. I had to make sure not only is the quality levels and the craftsmanship level at the level that we want to produce at, but also kind of just like what the culture of the atelier is. How do they treat their employees? And it's a relationship. And like I said, we like to work with family ateliers that have been doing this for a long time. You see that feeling and that emotion come through the craftsmanship as well.
Yeah,
and that's really important to me.
Yeah, you can really feel like when there's generations of craftsmanship, it's very obvious. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing all that with me and with us. So what has been on your journey? Because it's something that I love about what you're doing, and I certainly resonate with, is that you're both an executive. You're an executive of your company, but also you're the designer. And I think that this is kind of more common these days, that this kind of creative and executive capacity is important for entrepreneurs. And just curious how that's been for you, that kind of right, left brain stuff.
It's a really good question. It's a balancing act for sure. I think the first year of business, there was a lot more space because there's a lot less to do when you're starting off, in the sense of, I was spending so much time in Bangkok and just learning production and design. So my right side of the brain, that's the creative side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Whichever.
Yeah. Well, the creative side, let's say that, when I look back, it's been the most fulfilling and just fun, like literally just fun, part of the business for me. And so when my brother had decided to leave to start his own business, I had to take on more of the left, or like the more business tactical stuff. Yeah. And that was exciting for me. It was scary, but it was exciting. I think years, probably 2.5 to about 5 in this, or 4 in this. I think I got too caught up in the business side. It was not a balance. And I started driving myself like a machine, almost overworking myself and things like that. We did really well in those years. We pushed our numbers and got somewhere, which I'm glad about, but it was also like very exhausting for me because I wasn't giving the creative side a chance to really breathe and have space.
Yeah.
So what I found was I actually started working with a business coach. And through that, I found a way to balance my creative and my business side and learn how to kind of honor both and when to do one and when to do the other.
And did you find that when you started to balance out a little bit more after those startup years that your numbers increased naturally from that balance? Like, did you see an increase from that rebalancing?
So it's funny, the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So I would like to say it would have, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But what I will say is my ability, my enthusiasm, my energy, and my relationship, my designs, I think all got better. So I still think it was a really important step to learn how to do that. Now, I think after this period moves, it would be very interesting to see how the numbers go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which obviously brings me to, you're in year 6 of the business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, which is quite fascinating. I mean, I think anybody, these years of business, they really do have energies, just like any kind of numerological thing. And, I think that many of us will, like, as per the year that we were in of our business and 2020 and the pandemic and everything that's kind of shuddering from that economically and culturally and otherwise. I mean, it's really it's a fascinating thing. I think we're gonna look back on this. I mean, not just the struggle, but also just what it's required from us, the pressure of the struggle.
Totally.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, where have you guys had to pivot? What have you done to keep the business vital? What's happened?
Yeah, that's so we've changed a lot. So to start with just Bonsali, all of our exhibitions internationally is where we get most of our revenue have been canceled, which is unfortunate, but every business is going through this in their own capacity. But what I realized is that it's given me the opportunity to really connect and develop even stronger personal relationships with a lot of my clients. Just checking in on how they're doing, like how they're feeling, what's going on in their lives right now. So I have this dinner series called Bon Bon. It's a dinner series around empowering women and celebrating women. It's really fun and just a beautiful evening. And so I was able to take that onto a virtual format and connect all my clients from around the world. We did small sessions, only 4 to 5 women each time. And it was just such an amazing thing to see women come together from different parts of the world and talk about what was going on in their life, in their country, their city, and see not only the differences, but a lot of the common feelings that we're all going through.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the ways that we kind of pivoted. Another way we did that was I ended up reducing prices by about 10% temporarily. And I know every luxury pundit will tell you that was the wrong move because of it's going to tarnish your brand loyalty and equity, and all fair and true. I believe it. I think that's right. But we're going through an unprecedented time right now, and we need beauty and celebration more than ever. And if I can help make that accessible to someone, I do want to do that. And it's just a reminder to not stop celebrating the beauty and like the great moments in our lives during this time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we did reduce our prices. What else? Let's see. So I'm coming up with a new design. It's actually Indian inspired. It's going to be launching in about a month and a half. So instead of producing pieces how I usually have stock, we're actually doing everything by pre-order now and doing digital renders, moving towards a digital showroom, and I'll be doing my first ever kind of digital presentation to my clients.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's really fun. The way I'm imagining it is like you walk into a digital gallery and you'll see the pieces kind of three-dimensional, and then there'll be like a narrative and a storytelling part to it. So it's been really fun to figure out to find ways to pivot. I mean, hard, but definitely fun.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And have you found that, that there is the kind of like retail therapy thing that people are, they're sitting at home or they're dealing with stuff and they're still wanting to pull the trigger on these kind of items because of the stress? I mean, have you seen any consumer behavior around that?
Well, for the first few months, no. Like the very initial, let's talk about March. Yeah, there was just so much fear and uncertainty. At least for us, we didn't really have that much going on. I think now, starting towards May, June, going into July, people are like, okay, this is going to last for a while. We need to find a way to normalize again and go back to living in a certain way, that whatever that means for them. So we started seeing a lot of wedding purchases and a lot of actually wedding purchases mostly.
Yeah, I think people are like kind of like, it's the end of the world as we know it, let's get married vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that is happening.
Yeah.
It's good for business, you know?
It's good for business. It's good for business.
Yep.
And they're actually really fun when I do engagement or wedding type of things. I personally love, I've started to love that a little bit more because you start to see a couple and develop a relationship with them and see them at the very beginning. It's the first real big purchase a young couple, let's say, maybe not an older couple, but a young couple makes in their life.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. And it's just beautiful to guide them through that process and see that relief and that excitement through it. It's great.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's an honor, I'm sure, to be able to do that. So I would love to talk about some of the work that you're doing in terms of your social impact, because I know you're working to teach some of these entrepreneurial sciences to young women. So would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So in college, I think I started getting the idea of giving back or social impact. Again, like if I think of Tom's and Warby Parker were the initial ideas that I had in my mind, then Patagonia after that. And I didn't realize a business could be for profit, but also do good. That was like a completely new idea in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't really seen that done in luxury.
Yeah.
In a unique way. Let's say there's philanthropy for sure, but I'm really talking about getting involved in community or giving back more than just money, if that makes sense. And that's okay if you give back money. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm talking about like actual tangible impact. So I always had that idea in mind. I started at the beginning of Bonsali, we started sponsoring Tedx women events. I had started speaking in schools in the South Central area, and that eventually evolved into start in 2019, where we basically created a full-fledged creative entrepreneurs program that included a summit and a pop-up shop. So that was kind of the vision of that.
And how are you guys? How are you doing it online, or how are you doing it now?
So 2020, the year that keeps changing. So we have to change with it. We had a very cool partnership for 2020 at the very beginning, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, schools closing, them trying to scramble on how to educate kids online, specifically in low-income areas too, it became a challenge for them, and they needed to put their priority on education, which I completely understand and agree with. So unfortunately, we weren't able to secure a partner for this year at the end.
Yeah.
So the way we pivoted was an online platform blog series where we feature different creative entrepreneurs and they talk about their experiences. I also am independently mentoring one-on-one one student that I met at one of the schools that I had spoken at. And so we work weekly pretty much on a 90-minute call, and we go through what's going on with him and how we can get him. Right now he's applying to colleges, so like how does that transition work, and how do you think about the next steps after that? And if he has, even right now he's thinking about this aloe vera business idea, which is kind of cool. So we're just talking through some ideas.
Cool. I was just talking this morning about mentorship being, I mean, it really is like, if you talk to any successful person, these are the things that kind of go across all aspects and sectors of success, is that having strong mentorship and using it and actually, doing something with it is whether it's sports, or I was giving the Michael Jordan analogy, but whether it's sports or any other sector, this is a part of kind of being able to maneuver success. And I think especially now, because you talk to some people who've been through some stuff, it definitely helps get through some of these odd times.
Completely. I couldn't agree with you more. We all need someone to guide us and help us through things, and people who've been there and figured out how to do it, when they look back and help other people get there. And I've certainly experienced it in my life. It uplifts and empowers people to go after their own dreams and make it a reality. And I didn't want to stop the mission just because of the pandemic. I wanted to find a way, even if it's in the smallest way, to be able to keep the mission alive.
And, I think that this is something that, if there's anything that I could say to anyone, no matter whether they're thinking of creating something or they're in their third year or their sixth year or wherever they are in the kind of process, that you have during times like these, you just have to keep on doing the things that and you love and you have passion for, and you have to do as much as you possibly can. Really disregarding in some ways. I mean, I think it's like you could look at it different ways, but in some ways it's disregarding the context of what's happening on the planet and just continuing to do what you want to do, have passion to do, feel is necessary. And something about that momentum keeps you in a certain kind of creative space.
Completely agree with you. I think for me, it was designing this new collection that kind of kept me going through this time. And because we had so much more space and time to be able to think through things, I personally think that whenever we do get out of this period, the arts, the music, the fashion, anything that's creative will be such an unbelievable, whether it's quality, whether it's innovative, whether it's thoughtful, just because we had that time for reflection. The time to really slow down and think about what is it we are creating or bringing out and why. And I'm really excited to see that. And I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, because I felt that just designing this collection.
Yeah. I think the Renaissance will be a huge pendulum of Renaissance around creativity and just, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I'm sure you've had these experiences recently where maybe you have a little dinner or you go somewhere, some social distance kind of event. It's like, I don't know, it feels very new. Like all of this, like just being with a couple people is like so fun now. It's just like this, there's a huge rebirth, I feel, happening.
Completely. I don't know if you've experienced this, but even when you're, going to the grocery store or walking on the street and wearing your mask, right? So you can only see someone's really eyes. You all of a sudden, just because you can't focus on any other part of the face, you actually make eye contact and say hello. And it's a beautiful moment that happens, actually. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Well, I'm a little bit of renegade, and I'm not going to be caught outside with my mask on, no matter what someone tells me to do. But no, I have experienced that there's just a different. I mean, I think it goes in different polarities, in terms of it's also shutting people down, but that we live on that kind of planet, so
yeah.
So I would love to hear, just what you feel are your greatest successes as an entrepreneur, and what you're, in that vein, like what is your goal for, we'll call 2021. We'll pretend like this is going to be over sometime soon. And what, kind of where you're headed, and also just giving us some of the things you're most proud of about what you've built.
Sure. I would say my first collection is still one of the most proudest moments of, I guess, my career, because it's still our best-selling collection 5 years later, and it was just a beautiful time that I was in a beautiful space when I created it, and I'm just so proud of that, and the impact that it's had. So I would say the collection is definitely one of them. Starting Start, for sure, is another really big milestone for me, and one that I'm incredibly proud of. Another would be the Bonbon series, so the dinner series, or anything. Even I do a campaign called One by One. So anything women's empowerment is something really important to me. And I feel that I finally have things that I've done that contribute to that cause. So the one by one are interviews with my clients that kind of put them on, basically to share their story with the entire community. We do this amazing photo shoot for them. We make them feel like they can see the beauty that lives within themselves. I always say my jewelry is just a compliment. It's an enhancement to someone. It is not, jewelry is not the ideal. You are just the beautiful person. It's just the little icing on the cake. And I love that my one by one series does that. And the Bonbon, I just love bringing women together to celebrate and honor each other. So I would say these are my biggest accomplishments.
Amazing. And what is your, what's the, like with all of this in hand and going into the 7th year of your business, what are your goals? I'm sure they've probably changed, but what are your goals for the next step?
The next step, so the next one will be investing more into a digital experience for what Bonsali is. And then really, I'm curious to know, so I haven't really, to answer your question, I haven't really necessarily thought too far out because I'm thinking day by day right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about what is 6 months to a year going to look like because so much of my business is international and I don't know if large gatherings are going to happen because that's where I do most of my sales.
Yeah.
So right now we're pushing for a digital experience with Bonsali. And I would say also personalized service, like even going deeper with my client relationships are the 2 places where I think I'm focusing on right now. And then obviously the new collection. So yeah.
Awesome. And what's been your biggest challenge as a woman, as an entrepreneur, in the creation? What have been the big obstacles?
Sure. There are a lot. That's why I'm like, let me think. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. I go all the way with something, and sometimes that can lead to attachment. It can lead to perfectionism, to a fault. And I think sometimes you need to sit back and learn how to let go and let things happen by itself. And that was I think, a really big struggle for me because I would try so hard and put so much in. And then I would get really frustrated when the input didn't match the output. And when I realized, when I took a step back and kind of took a breath and let things relax, the output started going by itself. I didn't need to try so hard. And it was such a weird mind type of thing that happened with me. But it was a really important thing for me to realize that, okay, work hard, but don't kill yourself.
Yeah. Understood.
But if you want a more tactical business sense of it, I think controlling your costs and inventory is like one of the biggest lessons I've had.
Yeah. It's really, when you're working in like luxury jewelry, this is really challenging. I don't think people, unless you know, you don't know.
Yeah. It's a really challenging industry. And I'll tell you, it's hard because here you have Cartier, Van Cleef, name any big luxury jeweler on any high street, essentially. And they have amazing budgets with beautiful campaigns and beautiful jewelry. And also there's brand loyalty in so many ways towards them. So then when you are the underdog, let's say, and you're trying to compete in luxury, you feel like you have to compete at that level. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, hey, I'm new luxury. I'm not trying to be the next Cartier. I'm not trying to be the next David Yurman or whatever that is. It kind of released me to realize, like, no, what is luxury? It is beautifully made products that will be there over a period of time, like over a lifetime, lifetime. It is really great service and personal relationships.
Yes, yes.
Right? It's, for me, it's inclusivity. I think when you think of luxury, things that are rare, and I think being inclusive, being warm, being welcoming is really rare in the industry.
Yes.
I was like, well, I'm finding what luxury is for me today. And it's not the fashion icons. It's not this excessive living. It's really like a beautiful life that, you live well, but you also give back. And that's what everything I do. That's what I feel I want to live by. And so I feel the brand reflects that too.
Hmm. I love this because I've talked a lot about what kind of my prediction around the luxury industry pre-COVID, but it still holds true. Just any kind of aspect of luxury industry, I really feel, because of the movement towards the robotic and artificial intelligence, and what luxury has been, which is the all of these kind of elitisms and that kind of thing. I do feel like your generation, the millennials, have really kind of opened the door to luxury and are very much redefining the luxury experience. And part of that is like, I get to talk to a human, someone cares about me. This is there's a personal experience. There's there's an experience of just a value that's beyond kind of some of the stuff that we've seen in prior generations, and the over consumption and that kind of thing.
Completely.
I think the luxury industry it's going to be very interesting in this time, like what luxury actually becomes.
I completely agree, because I think, this period has allowed people to kind of reset and really get clear about what their values are and why they're living the way they are, or consuming the way they are, or doing whatever they are. And so I am also really curious to see how as a society and as a whole we come out of this.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. And I think you're right on the kind of pulse of what your brand has always been, but I think just as we go into a different time of values, what the luxury kind of value set is becoming.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel it, and it's very lived. It's you can feel it as a truth from you. So thank you so much for sharing your entrepreneur story with us, and your successes and your challenges. We'll really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me on. It's been incredible.
So good to talk with you. And can you just tell people how to find you and how to find your jewelry, your incredible jewelry?
Sure. You can go on our website, which is bonsali.us, or our Instagram, which is Bonsali Official. So those are the two best ways, and I'll be responding to you. There's no other person, so you can reach me directly to those.
They can slide into your DMs. And just so everyone knows, Bonsali is spelled Bhansali. Anar, it's so good to meet you and talk with you. And I hope that as things open back up, I'd love to talk more about the work you're doing in terms of teaching and entrepreneurship coaching. It's something very dear to my heart, and our foundation, Rama Foundation, as well.
I would love that.
Amazing. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything. I feel very strongly about all of the good omens for you and your work.
Thank you so much, and I wish the same for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.